Hello, my friends. I wanted to talk about gratitude today. Um, it's something I've been thinking about a lot this week in terms of diabetes well being, and I think it's a really important thing to incorporate into your life with diabetes. And I know it sounds a little odd. Um, I run an emotional support group on Facebook for people with diabetes who follow a low carb diet. And I've asked the group several times now how can they be grateful for diabetes in their life? And a lot of times I get really strong responses from people about how they will absolutely never be grateful for diabetes. Ever. It's the worst thing that's ever happened to them. They hate it. It's awful, and they'll never be grateful for it whatsoever. That makes me a little sad sometimes because I feel like when you're not grateful for the struggles that you have, it kind of creates this sort of like tension within you where you're like constantly like at war with it, and I think that's where a lot of the diabetes warrior stuff comes from. I don't like that term. I don't identify with it. I don't agree with it. I don't feel like I'm a diabetes warrior. I have diabetes and I have had it since I was 3, but I don't fight it. I actually embrace it and I welcome it into my life, and I am grateful for the challenge that it offers me because it gives me something, it gives me a direction, you know? I had I had a very profound moment a couple of years ago. I was at an Emotions Anonymous meeting, and this was at a time in my life where things were just terrible. I was like at the lowest of the low point I'd ever been in. Um, I'd just been diagnosed with retinopathy in both eyes. I touched this one because it affects my vision in this eye, just not that one. I'd just been diagnosed with retinopathy, and I was angry, and I was depressed, and I was sad, and I was upset, and like everything was awful, and I didn't know how to handle it, and I didn't have coping skills, and blah, everything's crazy. So, um, my dog is here. Um, anyway, so I'm sitting in this meeting, and a gentleman named Charlie was sitting next to me, and I had appreciated Charlie's input on many other topics before, but um, he talked that day about being grateful for the medication that he has to take. And it just like, it blew my mind, and I was like, tell me more about being grateful for your medication. Um, I had never even remotely considered that concept before, and it just like blew my mind completely. And so he started talking about how, he had a knee replacement surgery and he had arthritis. He was constantly in pain and had to take anti-inflammatory medications for the arthritis and pain medication for the pain, and he was constantly going through this like really deep struggle, and he eventually decided to practice gratitude towards his medication because it allowed him to live a relatively pain-free life. And my dog is ridiculous. It allowed him to live a relatively pain-free life and to be able to function properly. So he started to practice gratitude towards his medication, and that actually made his medication more effective. And I was sitting there just like, what? I've never even remotely considered this before. Like, I'm blown away. Hey, stop. 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 And I was like, I don't even know what to do with this information. It took me a while to like process everything. But then, because I also at that time, I was like deathly afraid of giving myself an injection. I mean, deathly afraid, like panic attacks if I had to give myself an injection with a bare syringe. It was awful, and I was just in this terrible headspace about my diabetes with the retinopathy. I couldn't give myself injections, so I was like on a soul deep level, sort of like rejecting my medication that I need. Hold on. Apologies. I had to make the dog go away for a second. Anyway, so I was like on this soul deep level, sort of rejecting the medication that I need in order to function. And so I decided I would try to see how it felt to be grateful for my medication. And I kid you not, it did make it work better. I actually had like better blood sugars the next day after I sat there and I looked at my insulin and I drew it up and I told it, I'm thankful for your presence in my life. I'm thankful that insulin exists. I am thankful that this is available to me and it allows me to take care of myself. I am thankful for this medication and I gratefully accept it into my body as I inject it. And if that didn't change everything, yeah, it was amazing. So then I started to wonder, like, what else in my diabetes life can I be grateful for? So then I started telling my blood sugar meter that I was grateful for it. And I started telling my CGM, I don't wear one anymore, but I used to wear it on my arm. I would tell my CGM that I was grateful for it. And I would tell all of these things in my life that used to be like major stressors that I was grateful for them. And that actually made it better and easier to deal with. So, fast forward a couple of years, and after the retinopathy diagnosis, I made some huge lifestyle changes. And I made a lot of dietary changes. I did it all without medication. And every single aspect of my life improved. So then I realized, okay, without the like emotional gut punch that was retinopathy at age 25, I never would have made those changes, and I would have continued on the course that I was on and probably died from it in my 40s or so, you know? So then I realized I can be grateful for retinopathy. Let's think about that one for a second. And I was like, okay, so now I'm grateful for this health condition because it allowed me to find a better way of life, and it allowed me to find basically all the answers that I had been looking for about how to be the best diabetic who was healthy that I could be. But it came at the cost of starting to go blind. So it was this very strange, complicated stew of emotions about this stressful thing that I was also grateful for. And I know it sounds weird, but it's true. So now I like to practice gratitude for my diabetes in my life because it gives me a direction. It gives me a purpose. It gives me a constant, concrete, and immediate feedback on whether what I am attempting to do with my health and wellness is working or not. And it's my compass, basically. So I think this is an important thing to try to incorporate into your life with diabetes, is to find ways to be grateful for it instead of rejecting it, instead of being angry with it, instead of hating every minute of it, instead of letting it absolutely rule your life. That's not going to help you live the best life that you can. So I wanted to share this to help other people think about ways in which they could be grateful for their diabetes to help themselves live better with diabetes. So, ask yourself today, how can I be grateful for diabetes presence in my life? And then let me know.